was asked to talk about disruptive technologies today, and I was very excited to do that because, like Art said, what I do all day is look for those disruptive technologies and try to find ways to bring them to real estate. And the idea being to bring them to real estate, keeping the realtors at the center of the transaction. So really keeping technology to happen for us and not to us, so to speak. And so that's what I do with Second Century Ventures is we look for those companies that are transforming real estate, but in a way that's going to help innovate it and move it forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some major trends that are happening overall, and then I'm going to bring it back to real estate. But a few of the trends that are happening overall today, so big data is something that's thrown around all of the time. And in my opinion, the big thing that's really interesting about big data is not data itself. The definition of big data is data that is so large that you can't have, that it's hard to synthesize in standard ways. And so what's interesting about big data is actually those applications that are used on top of big data to make it useful. The next trend is that technology must be mobile today. And then finally, it's going to be wearable. And I'll just talk a little bit about that because we're not there yet. In terms of big data, we create 2.5 quintillion data bytes every single day. So to give you an idea of what quintillion is, if you lined up 1 quintillion pennies, it would stretch from here to Saturn and back. And so we create 2.5 quintillion data bytes every single day. And an interesting thing about all the data that we've created, 90% of it has been generated in the last 2 years. So whether it's the 72 hours per minute of YouTube video that's being uploaded every single minute, or it's the 154 billion emails that are going on every day, we are creating an enormous amount of data. And most of it it's largely unstructured. So it's largely metadata. It's stuff coming from our phones, coming from our texts. And it's not things that we're able to synthesize. And in fact, only 0.5% of all that data that's out there is actually being analyzed in some way. And so what's interesting now is what are those applications that are being used to make that data useful? And I'll give you a couple examples of some interesting ones that are out there. Again, later on I'll bring it back to real estate. But predictive analytics is the big thing that people are talking about now in terms of how can you use big data to actually predict what's going to happen in the future. And some interesting things that are applications like this that have come out. A couple of data scientists from Microsoft Labs have been able to figure out that they can pinpoint with over 90% accuracy where you are going to be 80 weeks from now. So up to about 560 days in the future, not using your calendar, just using your GPS coordinates, which of course we're all carrying around on our phone now, they can pinpoint where you're going to be 80 weeks in the future. And the way they do it is it turns out that we don't change our patterns that much about where we go from day to day. And so they can determine at some very high degree of accuracy where we're going to be. And even when we deviate from those patterns, we do so in some sort of predictive manner. And so, the applications of that are, imagine a advertiser knowing that you're going to be needing to get your hair cut pretty soon. They can pop up an ad that says, in 4 days you're going to be in front of the salon that has a $15 off coupon. Google now is using a lot of this stuff. They'll let you know that you should leave for the airport a little bit early because there's traffic on the way to catch your flight. Google, they can tell within milliseconds what you're putting into the search bar, and they can predict what you're going to actually search for. And one of my favorites, or maybe not so favorite, is the most recent. You hear about Target knowing in some cases before the father knows that a woman is pregnant. And the father finding out because of the ads that Target is sending her. So, predictive analytics can be very, very powerful. And again, I'll bring it back to real estate in a little bit. Mobile is, obviously, we've come a long way with mobile. So, back in those days when it was really cool, that big phone that Gordon Gekko was carrying around, right? Now we're all carrying around the smartphones in our wallets and in our pockets and our purses. But the key today is no technology has ever been adopted more quickly than mobile. So this is a chart of different technologies and the length of time it took them to reach a 10% saturation rate in the US. So it took the telephone 25 years to reach a 10% saturation rate in the United States. It took electricity 30 years to reach 10% saturation level. Radio, television, computer all took about 10 years. And from the time that Apple introduced the iPad in April of 2010, it took 18 months to reach 11% saturation level in the US. And today, over 44% of US adults own a tablet. So never has technology been adopted more quickly. And this year, the use of mobile has eclipsed desktop use in online usage. So only about 40% of people are using the desktop today to go online. The rest are using mobile web or mobile apps. And so the key here is that if your technology that you're looking at or that you're using is not mobile, it's going to be obsolete very soon. So technologies that you're looking at, the ones that you're implementing, the new ones that you're looking at, and the ones that you're using today really need to be mobile. Otherwise, no one's going to be using it. The next trend that we're going to see is wearables, and this is just coming out now, but it's come out strong enough that technologies like Fitbit, they've measured over 2 trillion steps, also enough steps to get to Saturn. So I don't think that the trend for wearables is going to be the Google goggles. It might be Google contacts. It probably is going to have something to do with the watch, and it's probably something that we haven't even thought about yet. But ultimately, this is going to end up becoming a large market. A lot of what's coming in today is input-driven, so sensors are preventing strokes and heart attacks by early detection warnings. And I can imagine that in the future, it's going to also have very smart outputs, and they're going to be more business-related. So imagine a client or someone that you talk to from a business standpoint stresses you out. Well, your wearable was going to know that it's going to stress you out, and it will maybe automatically insert into your calendar the next time before you talk to that person 30 minutes beforehand of some meditation, or you should go work out, or something like this. So, but beyond that, there's going to be some real business application. Salesforce is estimating that the wearable market is going to be over $8 billion by 2018. And they're already creating a number of applications for wearables that are business-focused. So make no mistake, these technologies are all coming to real estate. So never before has the consumer been more technology-driven. They're online, they're social, they're mobile. They have never had more data at their fingertips than they have today. And what that means is it's driven agents to be more, to change their business as a result. So they need to communicate in a way that consumers want to be communicated to. They need to be using text. They need to be using their mobile devices. They need to make transactions more efficient. And in a world where 54% of business comes from past clients or referrals, they need to provide the best ultimate experience to that consumer than ever before. And also as a result, brokers, franchises, MLSs, we must all also change the way that we're thinking about business. Everyone's vying for brand equity, for squeezed out margins, relevancy, and ultimately to provide the best tools to stay on top of the relevancy chain, to provide the participants, the constituents in the markets, those tools and services that are going to provide the consumer the ultimate experience to, again, make this all good for the consumer. A lot of people talk about technology that could, being scared of technology that could displace the realtors. And, I think the truth is that technology exists to do that today. It's not about the technology. It's really about, I think the market has really spoken that people still view the real estate agent is central to the transaction. People don't want to do sell or buy a home on their own. They value the service and the consultative services that the agents provide, and so therefore they're going to be asking for help. The question is, how can those agents help the consumers as strong as possible? And that's really a lot of what I've been looking at is the idea of how do you create those technologies that are helping the agents and really the whole ecosystem ultimately serve those consumers. So industries don't stick around for this long, and professions don't stick around for this long unless we're constantly innovating, unless we're constantly evolving. And so literally we look at thousands of new technology companies every year, and what we're trying to do is find the very best that can help the real estate industry evolve, again, keeping the realtor central in the transaction. We often look outside of the industry and look at what are the trends that are happening in other industries, and is that applicable to real estate, and can we help bring that to real estate and help our industry evolve? So a number of the companies that are in our portfolio, we have two different entities. We have Second Century Ventures, which is our investment arm, and then we have the Reach Accelerator program. So the Second Century Ventures program is where we make our investments out of, and generally we make investments in technology companies that have a proof of concept in the marketplace. We define proof of concept by companies that have 2 to 20 million in revenue or a significant customer base. And then we have the Reach Accelerator program to help find those high potential earlier stage companies, or companies that may be successful in other industries but have not yet come into real estate. And what we do is we put them through a 9-month program. We give them education, we give them mentorship, we give them exposure, and we try to give them really all those success tools that they could possibly have to launch into the marketplace. And then we can see how do they do, how does the industry perceive them, and we can make a more educated investment as a result. But the idea is that we try to involve the entire industry to help us identify these companies and help us figure out if they are really making a difference in the industry to help excel it. So I'm going to go through a few of these, and I'm not doing any pitching here. These are just companies that really, over the course of these years, that they've risen to the top as what we think is as the cream of the crop. And I'm going to highlight a few of them that are more, I think, MLS-centric. They all have this component that I mentioned before of data. That's a big theme that we look for, is what are companies doing with big data. They all have a component of mobile, and they will all have something to do with wearable. I won't talk a lot about wearable because the companies aren't there yet, but they will. And I'll break them into 3 things within real estate, which is business tools, brand value, and communication, because all of these are important. I'll start with business tools. So DocuSign is a company that we invested in 5 years ago. 5 years ago, everyone here probably would have thought e-signature was a pretty cool idea, but most people maybe wouldn't have heard of DocuSign yet. And now a lot of people say they can't live without it. But it's really epitomizes how a company that's taken a very paper-driven process and brought it all digitally, and then applied something like the transaction rooms that they introduced this year to help people interact and make sense of that big data. So application using the big data. And some fun facts about DocuSign. So today they have more than 40,000 new unique signers every single day on the platform. They have over 1 million documents or almost 1 million documents that are DocuSigned every day. Over 51% of those are DocuSigned within 1 hour, so making transactions very efficient. 90% of the Fortune 500 have used DocuSign. They have 43 languages across 188 different countries. 700 credit unions are using them. Most of the major insurance brands are using them, and they're the NAR's official exclusive e-signature platform. The next thing I'm going to show you is a map that's going to show how mobile was, how users, well, I guess DocuSign adoption in general, but how users morphed from what they went from regular using it to how many are using it by mobile. And what I'll show you is that this is not unique to DocuSign. This is really across all technology companies. And so what you'll see here is it starts in 2005, and you'll see some of the yellow lighting up, and this is just adoption of DocuSign as a whole. So you see the coast started, and then Europe starts, and these are largely second homes. And pretty soon what you're going to start seeing is blue. And that's mobile. So we're in 2010, 2011 now, and pretty soon you see everyone's just using it mobile. And you see all those 188 countries, you see many of the green and yellow isn't even there anymore. It gets leapfrogged into just blue, just using mobile. And once now in July 2014, those 188 countries that are using them are predominantly blue. And it's just an example of, and like I said, I think this is not unique to DocuSign. This is indicative of how people are morphing from how they use technology from a web-based app or from an application to mobile. And really, again, to emphasize that if the technologies you're using, you're implementing today aren't mobile, they really need to be. Another application that I'll highlight is SmartZip. So SmartZip uses predictive analytics and puts an application into real estate. What they do is they predict with about an 80% accuracy the likelihood that a home is going to sell in a given area. So the implication is that an agent doesn't have to market to an entire zip code or an entire area. They can instead focus just on that 20% that is actually going to move. Because, and the way that they define, the way that they're able to predict the home's likely to move is by using things like loan-to-value ratio, the type of loan. They use demographic data like the age of the owners, the number of kids. They know social data, so they know if someone just got married or just had a life event, and they can come up with the predictive analytics. But as I said before, it's not that useful just to know that something's going to happen. It's not that useful unless you actually have some application that you can put on top of it. So one of the things that SmartZip has is a targeted marketing application in which they can, then once they can target that seller, they can follow them around online and offline. So suddenly an agent will show up when someone's browsing the Weather Channel, for example, or posting on Facebook. They have offline brochures that will go out to them and letters as well, but all helping the agent to show how to capture that lead because someone is actually going to sell. So they can identify the sellers easily, get in front of their prospects, and do so with branding. And of course, it's all mobile. Deductor is another technology which is using big data to help consolidate information for tax season. So Deductor will tell you that about $16,000 of unclaimed tax deduction, or $16,000 of tax deductions go unclaimed by the average real estate agent, which is pretty significant. And so what Deductor does is it uses the GPS technology, and it also lets people take pictures of their expenses, consolidates all the information, matches it with the calendar of when there are business meetings that took place, and at the end of the time allows, at tax time, they can spit out a report that allows the agents to then use it for tax deduction purposes. And they have partnered with a number of MLSs as a member benefit, for example. So moving on to another theme of brand value, also very important, especially for referral purposes and getting that past business and staying top of mind. Updater is a technology that is a change of address technology. So people who move, and it takes them often weeks or months to actually change their address in all those different places that they need to change their address. What Updater does is it provides a branded platform that you can change your address all in one place within minutes. And so 40 million Americans relocate every year, or about 20% of US households. And it generates 165 million change of address records. So how do you make sense of all this or make our lives a little bit easier? What Updater does is it provides a branded change of address platform that, so when a home goes under contract, for example, it can be sent out automatically by an MLS or by brokers or by many ways, but it can go out automatically with the agent or broker's branding in place. And so the client or the agent is adding value to the client even after this transaction is closed, and say, hey client, you can change your address using this branded change of address tool. So not only can you change your USPS, but you can also change your credit card, your bank profile, your alumni profiles. You can upgrade your Comcast, your AT&Ts, your phone, your utilities. You can do this all online, all within minutes. And once those confirmations come in that the address actually changed, again, it's branded. So the agent is staying top of mind, again, adding that value even after the transaction is closed. PlanWise is a financial decision-making tool, harnessing the value of big data to help people make personal financial decisions. And so what PlanWise does is they have a widget that can live on, for example, an MLS listing site. And what it does is it allows someone to put in inputs of test home A versus home B, and the different tax rates that they might imply, the different down payments that one might incur over another. And also within the context of, well, I also want to buy a new car, because most people do that within 6 months of moving. And also, I'm thinking about my nanny versus daycare option, and maybe I'm thinking about changing my job or going back to school. But all these things that have implications on my personal financial decisions, and what PlanWise does is it takes all these different scenarios and plots it along your personal financial profile to see what it means to your cash flow, so that you can make decisions in a more informed way without having to spend a whole lot of time on your Excel spreadsheet. The technology also brings in data from your bank or your credit card if you choose to do that, and it comes in with real-time mortgage interest rates too, so it can show the effect of the monthly payments. Back at You Media, they are a company that takes the trying to make sense of the social data ecosystem out there. So what they do is, we know that 80% of agents now have, everybody knows that social media is now important to do business, and about 80% of agents have a page, but most of those pages are dead, meaning they do something with it, but they don't go back and keep it refreshed. 19 million small businesses use Facebook at least once a month, and 30 million pages are managed via a mobile device. So the thing that Back At You does is it provides a branded platform on Facebook for an agent, which can drive customers back to the agent's website, which is where they're spending all their money, or the broker's spending all their money keeping updated. But it keeps the agent fresh and has a real professional-looking page that it does. They have a number of rev-sharing programs with different MLSs, and things like when someone updates a new listing under their profile, that information gets pushed out to the social media places as well. They can do ads and promotions using social media tools, and there's an interesting dashboard that helps people keep track of what's going on. Communication is the final theme that I'll talk about. So we have a few companies there, again, focusing on the data and mobile. BombBomb, which is a video email marketing company. So why do we care about video email marketing company? There are 204 million emails sent every single minute. I feel like I get most of them. You probably all do too. But it turns out that there is a 65% increase in click-through rates if that email has a video. So it's actually pretty powerful if your emails include video, if you want people to open it. How is video used in real estate? Well, in many cases, agents are using it to maybe preview a house, and they can immediately send that video. They can take a video from any device and send it, and a user can open it from any device, whether it's text or email. Many are using it for market listing reports. Here's the 5 top markets that are happening today, and a lot of the agents are using MLS reports to send with that to their prospective clients. And they're using it as a way to follow up leads. They're also using it for just kind of corporate communication. So the CEO of Century 21, Rick Davidson, he uses BombBomb to give monthly reports to all of his constituents on what's happening in Century 21 corporate. So how do you make a good video? WeVideo is a super simple video creation software program. And it is born under the idea of, we know that about 73% of people want video on their listings, and only about 10% of people actually have video on their listings. And so why is that? Well, many find video maybe tough to a little bit daunting to get started with, and some are hard to use. But what WeVideo has is a super simple user interface that allows even beginners, but is also advanced for powerful for advanced users to create video. And it can be created across multiple devices, so a phone, mobile, desktop. It can be used to collaborate, so among teams or brokers, and it can be used in a super simple way to create it. In fact, they started out in the education space, and so they originally created this for 6-year-olds. And they've been very successful in other industries. This is an example of a company that is now just turning its eye to real estate. So they have over 3 million users, about 250,000 new users every single month, and they have partnerships with companies like Disney and Google and Sony, and like I said, they're just bringing it to real estate now. So when we work with these companies, we do a number of things to help bring them into the real estate space. The first thing we do is we educate them. So it's my belief that a lot of early stage startups, they don't make it in real estate because they don't get real estate. They don't get the MLSs and the associations and the brokers and the agents and how they all work together or don't work together. And so we spend a lot of time helping them understand what this market really looks like, how to approach the market, how to price without stepping on people's toes, and things like this. We provide mentorship to them, and most people in this room I would encourage to be part of our mentorship program, but it's really about 200 of some of the top influencers and decision makers in the field who will meet with the companies on a one-on-one basis, say for about a half day over the course of our 9-month program that we have, and they'll listen to the pitches and give feedback to the companies so the companies can think strategically about how to get into the industry. And what the mentors get out of this is the ability to see what kind of innovation is happening. And obviously what the companies get out of it is the ability to make smarter decisions on how to approach the industry. Then we have something called the Insight Panel. What the Insight Panel is, and this again, I would love to encourage you all to let your constituents, your participants know about this, but it's the ability for practitioners to sign up, use the technologies for free, in exchange for giving some feedback, and they can continue using the technologies usually on some discounted basis. But what it does is it really provides the ability to help influence how these companies are really making products that are very specific for real estate and very useful for the individuals. And then finally, we give the companies a bunch of exposure. So we leverage NAR's media channels. We go to industry events about once a month and try to get them in front of as many people as possible. But the whole idea is that we try to involve the entire ecosystem, the entire industry to help make these companies be something useful for the industry. So how have we done? The Reach 2013 class, we had 7 companies. We estimate about 50 to 100,000 members touched those companies at some point. 5 of 7 of the companies landed major deals with major brands. They all experienced growth ranging from about 100 to 2,000%, depending on what stage they were coming in. They raised over $16 million in financing among them, and we made 2 investments out of that fund, out of that class. The 2014 class, which we just launched in April, and we're about 2/3 through. They've already had over 100 mentor meetings. The 3 companies have raised over $13 million, and we're still only 2/3 through the program. Now, we estimate about 80% of active realtors use one or more of the NAR investment companies, which has really created about $60 million worth of savings to the industry and the discounts that the companies provide. And if everyone in the industry used it, it would be about $250 million. So we find that by involving the industry and creating products that are really for the industry, that these can be really successful. So we involve, at some point, this is just a sample of people who've been involved either as co-investors or mentors or insight panelists. And we really hope that we encourage people here to really get involved. So again, if you have early stage companies that you like or technology companies that you like, please let us know. And if anyone here wants to become part of our mentor program, also let us know, because your input is really valuable. And you can pass on the ability for people to be part of the Insight Panel at narreach.com/realtors. And some of you are making investments in technology companies on your own, and we have a program that allows people to do that alongside of us as well. So really we're trying to involve people to be on the real cutting edge of innovation. And here's our contact info. But I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all today. It's, I think that the technology companies that are, that are coming out, again, not only in real estate today, but outside of real estate, which we can bring in, are companies that can really make a difference in what we all do. So thank you very much.